Familiar voices feel safer than accurate ones. People confuse repetition with reliability without noticing it. When the same message appears again and again, the brain lowers scrutiny. It stops checking truth and starts tracking comfort. This shifts trust away from evidence and toward exposure. In practice, this means saying the same thing consistently matters more than proving it. People relax around what they have already processed before. This is done by repeating the same framing across time, not adding new detail. It shows up when someone says it just feels right. The feeling came from repetition, not accuracy. Repetition creates predictability, and predictability reduces threat. The brain treats the unknown as risk by default. When behavior or messaging repeats, risk signals drop. This makes the source feel stable and non-threatening. In practice, this means consistency builds trust faster than persuasion. People trust what does not surprise them. This is done by keeping tone, pacing, and conclusions aligned every time. Variation creates alertness, not comfort. It shows up when someone defends a familiar source automatically. Stability replaced evaluation. Repetition shifts authority from the message to the messenger. The more often someone speaks, the more central they become. Familiar presence gets mistaken for expertise. This concentrates influence without changing content. In practice, this means visibility builds authority even when substance stays the same. People defer to the voice they hear most. This is done by staying present across contexts and conversations. The message matters less than who keeps showing up. It shows up when people quote someone instead of checking facts. Authority formed through exposure. Repetition trains agreement before conscious choice appears. Repeated ideas slide into the background of thinking. They stop feeling like opinions and start feeling like assumptions. This removes the moment where resistance usually forms. In practice, this means repeating ideas before asking for alignment. Agreement feels natural because it feels familiar. This is done by introducing concepts casually and returning to them later. The listener forgets when the idea first entered. It shows up when people say they always thought that way. The thought was planted earlier. Repetition builds trust by reducing cognitive effort. New information requires energy to process. Repeated information feels easier and therefore safer. Ease gets misread as truth. In practice, this means simpler repeated messages outperform complex, accurate ones. People prefer what costs them less effort. This is done by using the same phrases and structures repeatedly. The brain rewards familiarity with comfort. It shows up when people reject new data as confusing. Comfort won over correctness. Repetition creates social proof without other people present. Hearing the same idea repeatedly simulates consensus. The brain assumes others must agree if it keeps appearing. This reduces the need to verify externally. In practice, this means repetition substitutes for agreement. People align to what feels widely accepted. This is done by repeating messages across time, not crowds. Frequency mimics popularity. It shows up when someone says everyone knows that. No one was checked. Repetition dulls resistance through gradual exposure. Initial disagreement fades with repeated contact. The emotional response weakens before logic is engaged. This opens space for acceptance. In practice, this means repeating ideas without pushing for agreement. Pressure is removed while influence remains. This is done by letting familiarity do the work. The listener stops reacting and starts absorbing. It shows up when objections disappear without being resolved. Resistance faded quietly. Repetition conditions trust by linking presence to reliability. When someone keeps appearing, they feel dependable. Dependability gets mistaken for honesty. This lowers defensive filtering. In practice, this means consistency signals safety regardless of intent. People trust what stays. This is done by maintaining steady cadence and tone over time. Absence creates doubt, presence creates comfort. It shows up when people excuse mistakes from familiar sources. Trust was already installed. Repetition makes influence invisible to memory. There is no clear moment where trust forms. It accumulates gradually and goes unnoticed. This prevents later questioning. In practice, this means the influence feels self-generated. People cannot point to why they trust the source. This is done by repeating calmly without escalation. Nothing triggers alarm. Trust appears without consent.